All right, I'm thinking you might be back for this part two of this great interview and consulting I have with Mikaela out in California. If not, make sure you jump on part one. We talked about the ideal program, what it might look like in Mikaela's market. We talked about reaching out to neighboring facilities and soliciting for someone that might be closing their doors or have a business for sale. We also talked about working with your local licensing. Now in this video here, in part two of our interview, we dive into considering how you're gonna lay out your program. Are you gonna serve infants and what are the factors there? We talked about preparing your program for transitions, for kids moving up. So you want to really think about strategically how you're gonna license and utilize every square foot in each room and how that's gonna be successful when kids transition up. And then we also talked about leasing a program with options to buy. And I give Mikaela my how-to on how we opened up our second facility, dollar by dollar, broke it down for her just a little bit. So lots of great stuff here in part two of this interview with Mikaela. So thanks, Mikaela, for sharing this with everybody. Hope you enjoy.
We'll manage that better than you can.
They haven't managed it so far, but that's another topic.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Rogers, my kindergarten teacher.
I totally thought you were actually talking about Mr. Rogers.
It's time for you to go learn how to share a toy. And
exactly.
Right?
Like, oh, right. No, none of us can do anything if our kids don't have childcare.
Then this is the channel for you.
You go. It's pretty cool, huh?
It is interesting, and that's the part of big government where they say, hey, give it to us, trust us, and we'll manage that better than you can.
They haven't managed it so far, but that's another topic.
Yeah. We won't go down the political standpoint, with the exception of understanding that when you look at government trying to come in and going, hey, well, I think we can do this better than local business. Well, it's proven that's only cyclical, and because the people that they hire are, they're wage earners, they're not profit earners, so they're willing to work for wages, but they don't have the drive to work for profits, and that's what work sustainability comes from, right? So, I don't understand the concept of putting 4-year-olds in kindergarten, especially when at first grade, the expectations today is that the reading level is a third grade level, and of course, when I was in third grade, I was reading probably at a first grade level, and so that would have been very detrimental to me.
Yeah.
Fortunately for Mr. Rogers, hello, Mr. Rogers, my kindergarten teacher.
I totally thought you were actually talking about Mr. Rogers.
No, but that was the same. And so, I don't understand, and I can't really get behind that shift. I guess so I agree with you on that note. The other element is being cautious of programs and governments coming to you, entities, even your local markets, and saying, hey, we've got free childcare coming, free preschool for all. We've heard about that lately. Just wait, you're going to love it. Because every time they tell you that you're going to love something, what you have to brace for is the fact that you have to have your teachers all having bachelor's degrees in early childhood. And that's just not realistic in our industry. We get some of those wonderful gems, but that's not common. So just be careful of those programs. It's not that they can't be good if you really strategize and incorporate them appropriately into your program, it could be successful, I believe. But we just got to be careful of those. I want to mention something else. You said, my concern is, adjusting the program strategy by losing potentially 4-year-olds and taking on more infants and tots. So infants and tots is a tremendous need. But when you're going to run a center and be sustainable, that's not where you're going to grow. You're not going to be profitable running an infant and toddler program. So In both of our programs, we had infants. Within 3 years out of our first program, we rolled out the cribs as soon as they turned 1. It took 2.5 years in program 2,
Right.
and we rolled them out. And don't get me wrong, I love babies. They're beautiful.
Yes, don't we all?
But the need at that toddler and that 1-year-old age, I feel, is greater than infants. And I was able to create a program that supported them better because, if I just run as a philanthropist, I'm going to run out of energy, steam, and money eventually. And I've got to have Todd's and up in order to do that. So.
Yeah, that was kind of my original plan. Was I didn't want infants; they're too delicate to begin with. But my thought was always starting at 1-year-olds and going, through 5 or whatever it is. Because there is, I get calls. Currently, my program is we start at 2 years old, and I get calls for 1 year old all of the time,
all day long.
Yeah. All the time. So that definitely was always my goal. And just, the thought of that transition, I guess I could just kind of expand to take on more 1-year-olds instead of accommodating infants at all, because I really would prefer not to.
So the thing that I would consider, and it sounds like you've been in enough programs to already have this concept, hopefully, kind of ingrained, is that transition. So, you want to have the right capacity in each age group so kids can move through your program where you don't bottleneck and you don't time out, right? Oftentimes when you have in Grand Junction, our second location, we had 10 infants and then we had 10 toddlers. And then they moved to a 3-year-old room. That's a problem. If you're a good program and you're full, that's a problem because you've got 16-month-old infants that need to be in a toddler program because they're now a toddler, and your toddler program is full because they're not 3 and you can't move them up to your 3-year-old classroom. And so, and I think you just learned this by experience, whether owning or being in a program. In like the program that we looked at today, we talked about, okay, how many infants are you going to have? Okay, we're going to have 10 infants and 14 2-year-olds. Well, that doesn't work because you have no place to put a 19-month-old. They can't be in an infant room and they can't be in a toddler program with 14 because our ratio for 1-year-olds is 5-to-1, group size is 10. So now you just lost 4 Todds. So when you're looking at a facility, really think that through. Like, okay, how long is it going to transition these infants to come into this 2-year-old room? And is there a 3rd toddler room? I would rather have 1 infant room, 2 toddler rooms, and then go into a 3-year-old room if I had infants. Otherwise, I'd want to have a 1-year-old room, a 2-year-old room, and then go right into 3s. And because I think the need for 1-year-old care is bigger than infant care, because infant care isn't a 12-month thing, right? It's a 10-month, give or take. And there's so many grandparents and family that just want to freaking love the hell out of that little kid.
Yeah.
You can get that first 12 months, but then, by gosh, they turn 1, you're ready. You're like, okay, it's time for you to go learn how to share a toy. And
exactly. Get some social skills.
Yeah. So back to finding that facility, look at those classrooms. And I want to throw this out. So I don't know about your market, but in every market, there's so much federal grant money being put into local governments, and then they're being allowed and tasked with saying, spend it wisely, right?
Right.
So in our market, there's grants right now for infant and toddler expansion grants from $3,000 to $50,000. In our first program, we were offered a 10-year lease with an option to purchase. And that sounded good, but I said, I want an option to purchase after 5. I don't want to pay rent for 10 years if I can get this thing successful in 5. And so he said, sure, I'll do that. The sales price would be negotiable on current market value. But after two years, 2.5 years, I was like, wow, the numbers actually worked. Like, we're profitable. Like, we're very profitable. And then we were able to negotiate terms, and we actually did an owner carry at year 6 because he was ready to get out. So we did an owner carry at 6, and we're able to get our principal down enough after year 8 to purchase and do a conventional loan. You know, and at year 8, we would have been paying $5,000-$6,000 in rent on a lease, but we were now paying $2,600 mortgage payment, and $900 was going to principal. So, as per a conversation I had earlier today, I would never sign a lease without having an option to purchase. That doesn't mean you have to execute that option.
Yeah.
Right. It's just the right to try to negotiate on a purchase price. Right.
So if you're going in, and I'm sorry, just a couple really quick questions. If you're going into a lease and you put in that option to purchase within whatever it is, 5 years, sorry, I don't quite know how to word it. How do you I guess, how do you go about making a purchase offer when you're already into something?
So what you're into, though, is a lease agreement.
Right.
So,
not that you've put any money into it, but just that, you know, you're just there, you're in the program, you're leasing the program. So how do you then go about purchasing it?
So if you, for example, are in a 10-year lease and you have an option to purchase it at year 5, and that rental lease, the lease probably has an increased factor of maybe 2, 3, 4, 5%. Like your rent's going to go up after year 2 or 3 by 5% every year through year 10. And at year 5, maybe hopefully you've set aside a little bit of money, and you go, hey, I think we could offer, you know, Greg and Emily, I think we're in a position where we may be able to buy this. So talk to your banker, talk to a realtor, try to figure out what you think that your building would be worth, and then come up with a number you think you're willing to pay for it, right?
And then
so
you
if you're
offer it.
Yeah, if your building is worth, I think, you know, because a good realtor is going to say, okay, commercial property is going for this much money per square feet. And based on your condition, I think you could get, it might sell for $125 a square foot or $200 or $75, depends on your market. So you figure out what you think it's worth, come up with an offer, and then make that proposal. And I would definitely involve a realtor. We did in both of ours.
Sure.
And so we made an offer, say, hey, we'd like to purchase at $475,000. What do you think? And then you can negotiate on that amount. And then ultimately, if being in a commercial, you need a commercial appraisal, which in my experience, in my market, was somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000, I believe, and to determine if that number was right. So if you settled for $450, and it's settled, and that commercial appraisal comes in at $425, well, now you have the right to say, okay, I'll pay $425.
I'll pay $425.
If it comes in at $500, you could possibly say, great, I'm walking about $50,000 of equity. So
sure. Okay, so then just one last thing on a lease. So if I'm going in and I've talked to this program, I'm going to go in and lease it with the possibility of purchasing later. I guess I've never really thought about leasing an entire program. I always thought you would just have to buy it right off the bat. So you're essentially paying that rent for the entire program and all of its contents? Or, I mean, I guess how does the materials work, the supplies, the furniture, the toys, the books, just in general, all of that?
Right. So it's going to depend on what you walk into. Our first program, we walked in, and it was being run by a local business, like a hospital nursing home. And after 5 years, they said, we're done. We can't do this anymore. It's killing us. It's not making any money. And so their partner had a first right of refusal, so they got involved. We walked in, and it was basically empty. The business, we weren't interested in buying the business, and so and there was really no business to be sold. It was really just a shell that was purchased and designed for preschool, for childcare.
Sure.
And so we went in just as a lease on the building, and we go, all right, babe, what are we going to call this? And so we came up with Discovery Kids Learning Center, and we bought a sign, and then we, started from ground zero, just leasing an empty childcare center that was not in operation. It had closed 30 days prior. So that was one scenario. The next scenario was a business. Our second center was one that after 25 years being in the family business, he was done. He was ready to get out. So we put it for sale, literally for sale, signed out in the front yard. And so we purchased the business from him, so that was kind of his exit plan. And I won't tell you how much that is, but we wrote him a check for $50,000. Right, that's how much it was. And better than writing a check, he financed it plus a vehicle at 4% interest because he was wanting out, and we got $10,000 off. So basically, we purchased a business for $40,000, a vehicle for $15,000. He financed $55,000 of that business minus 5% down or 10% down we gave him, and then we leased the facility from him separately. So we had a purchase agreement for his business for $40,000 plus a vehicle.
Oh, I see.
Right, and then he leased us the building. So the building and the business are two different things. Right?
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So there may be a business to buy, or there may not be if they've closed. Hopefully, every business owner in our industry can get something for their business, right? Hopefully, more than $50,000 if they're. But they kind of fell on hard times, and he was burnt out, and so he's like, I'm just ready to go. But he also owned the building, so that was his exit plan, and that's why I say you got to get a lease option. You need to try to figure out how you can eventually hook your fingers into that real estate, because that can be one of the best exit strategies when you decide I'm getting tired. I don't want to run the center anymore, so I'm just going to lease out my property that I now own, and let someone have all the hugs and loves that I had for 20, 30 years, along with the headaches, and just get a rent payment from them. So So think of the business, think of the building as two separate items. Okay.
I was not thinking of it that way at all. So that's really helpful.
But that's why you're gonna read Brian Dupree's book. Okay, give me an address to send that book to you.
Sure. It's 1418.
Tell you what, would you email it to me?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
absolutely,
that way
no
I've got it. I don't write it down wrong, and that would be absolutely awesome.
Okay, sounds good. I will email that to you. And thank you so much for your time. This has been really helpful.
Good. Love it. Well, hey, feel free to reach out again if you want to follow up sometime.
Sure.
Love to visit with you again. Let me know how you're doing. Send me an email. childcareconsulting@gmail. Well, you have my email already. So
I do,
feel free to keep connected there. Did you join our Facebook group, the Directors Network?
I don't think I did. I'm a part of one out here, but this is more of a larger community, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So this is just, we have a Facebook page, but then I made a private group just called Directors Network, and make sure you jump in there, and because I'd love to have conversation in there with you also that other people can jump in and benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I will do that.
All right.
Okay,
Super.
well, thank you so much.
All right. Great talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Bye now.
Thanks for watching part 2 of this interview with Mikaela. Gosh, we covered a lot of great stuff, so I hope you found some great gems in there. Speaking of gems, make sure you find your way to the treasure chest. We are continuing in the summer of 2021, loading it full of great resources for you, and there's so much more to come, including lots of personalized instruction that I'm putting in to that treasure chest coming soon this summer, so that those participants that are taking action, a part of that treasure chest, can utilize that, working with their own staff, working with themselves on how to use these tools and how to make them ensure that your business has the best opportunity to flourish financially with admin tools, enrollment, all that kind of good stuff. So anyway, thanks for following. Appreciate you. God bless.